Looks like Stonehenge. These are called the Georgia Guidestones, out in the middle of no place. If you get up close and look at the stones, you will find they have written on them in 12 languages the 10 commandments for the New World Order. Commandment number 1 says we must maintain humanity under 500 million. Excuse me, there's already 6 billion. How do you propose to maintain it under 500 million? Are they planning to get rid of a whole bunch of people? Well, you better read Revelation pretty carefully. I think you'll see it fits right in, folks, okay? Well, regardless of what happens in the future, the population today shows man has not been here for millions of years. That's a very powerful proof this earth is not billions of years old. Certainly the human population is not. A couple of more thoughts here. The galaxies are spinning, but the stars in the middle are going faster than the stars at the outside. If they were billions of years old, the galaxies would have lost their spiral shape by now. Spiral galaxies indicate they are not billions of years old. They should have drifted off. Plus, it's interesting, we have novas. That's where a star blows up. You know, we have a nova or a supernova about every 25 or 30 years. Astronomers tell us about every 25 or 30 years, a star dies and explodes into a supernova. Question, if the universe is billions of years old, how come there are less than 300 supernovas discovered in space? I mean, that's not billions of years worth, is it? If the universe is billions of years old, there should be a lot more supernova rings out there. And there aren't. Interesting. You kids are going to be told that red giant stars evolved to white dwarf stars. And they'll tell you it takes billions of years for this to happen. No, that's not quite true. It is true that red stars seem to turn to white stars, which, by the way, is the opposite of evolution. That's losing, not gaining. But it doesn't take billions of years. All of the ancient astronomers described Sirius as a red star. They said it was red. I know it's a binary star, but today Sirius is a white dwarf binary star. It does not take billions of years. It happens in a few thousand years. Jupiter is cooling off rapidly. You can't just keep cooling off. Pretty soon you are cooled off. I mean, if you walked into the room and found a cup of coffee sitting on the table, and I said, don't touch the coffee, it's hot. And you said, whose is it? And I said, I don't know, it's been sitting there for 400 years. That'd be kind of hard to believe, don't you think? And they want me to believe these planets are billions of years old, but they're still constantly losing heat. Jupiter has a little moon called Ganymede that is losing heat, yet it still has a magnetic field that is incredibly strong. Should have cooled off billions of years ago. Saturn has rings around it, but the rings are moving away from the planet. They are unstable. They cannot be billions of years old. The moon is going around the Earth. How many knew that already? The moon goes around the Earth? Okay. But as the moon goes around, it's gradually getting farther and farther away. We're slowly losing the moon. It can't be billions of years old. Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The moon is getting farther from the Earth every year. So that means that it used to be closer. How many can figure that out with no help? Okay? Well, if you bring the moon in closer, you start to create a problem, you see, because the moon causes the tides. I don't know if you folks up here, how far above sea level are we right here? Anybody know? A couple hundred feet above sea level up here. Pensacola, Florida is a little lower than that. Some parts of the country don't worry about the tides, but in Pensacola you worry about the tides. Okay? If the moon were closer, the tides would be higher. There's a law called the inverse square law. If you half the distance, you quadruple the attraction. If you brought the moon into 1/3 the distance, it would be 9 times the gravitational pull. According to Walt Brown in his book, which we have out there on the table, he says 1.2 billion years ago, the moon would be touching the Earth. Way before that, you would have a tidal problem. It would wash the beach clear back to Chicago. Comets are flying around through space, but comets are constantly losing material. That's what the tail is blowing off the comet. Comets only last about 10,000 years. I mentioned in my seminar years ago that, comets are losing material, and this indicates that the universe is not billions of years old. And this one skeptic devoted a website to me. There are now over 200 anti-Hovind websites. I'm so proud of myself. They all want to engage me in an email debate. That is just what I need. I get nearly 1,000 email a week. I type 12 words a minute with 19 mistakes. It's the last thing I want is an email debate. I offer to let them call me anytime. I tell them I will come debate them publicly in front of their crowd with half my brain tied behind my back, just to make it fair. So if one of them says, Hovind refused to debate me, it's only because they asked for a written, long email debate. I just simply don't have time, okay? I speak 700 times a year. I'm plenty busy with what I'm doing, okay? But I'll be glad to come debate them, all of them together, simultaneously. Bring them all together. I'll answer anything they want, answer any questions. We'll have a question-answer session after the service tonight also. But this skeptic said, Hovind, you don't know what you're talking about comets. Well, yes, I do. You see, comets are constantly losing material. You can't just keep losing and losing. Pretty soon it's gone. You know, it's like your checkbook. If your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall every time. But this scoffer said, Hovind, don't you know in the 1950s, a Dutch astronomer named Jan Oort proposed, that means he hoped, he wished, he prayed, that a shell of comets existed at the remote frontiers of our solar system. Oh, I see. He said this Oort cloud, as he called it, is 50,000 astronomical units away. In case you don't know, an astronomical unit is the distance from the Earth to the Sun. That is 1 astronomical unit. Now hold on a minute. The planet Pluto is 39 astronomical units away. And you cannot see Pluto without an extremely good telescope. And he says this Oort cloud is 50,000 astronomical units away? I don't think so. See, there's a problem with this. No one has ever seen the Oort cloud. Oort never saw the Oort cloud. He made it up. We now know it's based on a mathematical goof. There is no Oort cloud. But this skeptic said, if you fellows want to use the comet argument, it's up to you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the Oort cloud and other sources don't exist. Now, slow down, Dave, just a minute. How could I prove the non-existence of something? What he's trying to do here is called shifting the burden of proof. I'll show you how it works. It is so easy. Suppose I said, boys and girls, I believe watermelons are blue on the inside until you cut the skin. Prove I'm wrong. That's called shifting the burden of proof. If all I have to do is make up stories and you have to prove they're wrong, I can keep you busy the rest of your life. Right? And all he's doing is making up a story, claiming there's an Oort cloud, and I've got to prove he's wrong? No, Dave. You have to prove you're right. That's the way science works. You prove you're right. It's not my job to prove there's no Oort cloud. It's his job to prove there is an Oort cloud. He's trying to shift the burden of proof, and you've got to watch for that every time. The Bible says the heavens declare the glory of God. The psalmist said, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. See, evolution theory says sun and stars evolved before the earth. God said the earth was created before the sun and stars. Didn't he? Better read Genesis 1. The psalmist said, when I consider the heavens. And by the way, kids, it says when, not if. You would do yourself a favor to shut off the TV once in a while and go outside and consider the things that God has made. Just go lay down and look at the clouds or look at the stars. Just go consider the heavens. He said, when I consider the heavens. The psalmist said, while I was musing, the fire burned. The word muse is only used twice in the Bible. It means to think. Stop and think. Now, English is a very interesting language. A theist is a person who believes in God. If you put the letter A in front of that word, it means the opposite of. So an atheist is a person who does not believe in God. Muse means to think. Amuse means to not think. That is exactly what the word means. Did you know we have entire parks where you can pay money and go do that? You ever heard of those before? They're called amusement parks. That's what the word means, a place to not think. He said, when I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon, the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? You know, it's interesting. A person that spends a lot of time considering what God has done doesn't really care what man can do. And some of you parents ought to go home and look in your kid's bedroom, and if what you see plastered all over the wall is pictures of sports heroes, your kids are being